Hey everyone, a nerd named Mark here, and it's time to go over Kamen Rider Geats episode 33. I got some other content I'm working on. Um, so I was like, oh man, the channel's just gonna have two back-to-back Geats episode reviews with nothing in between because I got longer form content that I'm currently editing. Man, I'm excited for this. The JGP is over. We're getting our new arc starting, and we got a nice little time jump. It's been a week. And obviously, after everything that happened, we see some news reports going on because Ace is missing. A missing Ace, so to speak. I mean, I think this is the only time I can make a Blade reference, so I'm all for it. I'm gonna make it, okay? And not only that, like we see Sarah talking to the police because Kay was also missing. Uh, Obviously, they're not back. Obviously, everything has been reset, which is why I'm curious why they're not back because they were, you know, eliminated. Because everyone's back to normal. We see Kuhn. He's watching Nan going shopping with her bodyguard and talking about how she's got a date set up with another possible suitor. And, Kuhn made me think, like, oh, maybe she's happy this way, not knowing these things. And I was just like, well, we haven't seen Nan, in a whole episode. I was like, okay, so she's just back to her normal life. And I'm like, cool. The ignorance is bliss, deal going on. Um, my favorite thing about this episode is, we always thought something was up with Sumeragi, but we're getting like she was featured heavy in this. Like there's a whole scene where, Shiram walks in with like a little like platter thing and she's like, what's going on? Why are you gathering Kamen Rider again? There's no producers to even have a show. Like a game. We can't even have a game. And then even Shiram's like, it's for the entertainment. And best case scenario, someone beats Buffa. We get the Vision Driver back, and the DGP can be back on the air. Because let's face it, he needs the DGP. And this whole entire time, I'm like, man, where's Jirori? Like, give me Glare 1. I'm tired of Glare 2. Like, this would have never happened if he was still, the game master, obviously. Then we would have never had that disaster arc, which, my feelings on that. It wasn't that good. So we see this tray of ID cores, and, he aggressively goes up to Sumer and grabs her face, and he's like, go distribute them, since all you're good for is navigating the riders. And I'm like, damn, that's kind of like cold, kind of savage. And at the same time, I'm just like, well, you know, they're doing all this, like, we find out they're setting up with Sumeri, and I'm like, okay, this is a plot point that I didn't know I needed right now with the pacing of the show and where it's at with a new arc starting. We see, because we see all the ID cores, Sumeri goes up and gives two of the mission boxes to Neon's bodyguards, and I'm like, are we finally gonna get them to henshin and be in a suit? Is this happening finally? I was like, because that would be actually really exciting. She also gives Neon her vision, her desire driver, an ID core, and I was waiting to see Big Beefy Buffa in his new form, kinda. It's just Fever Zombie. And right as Neon's about to touch the ID core, he literally says, you know, you shouldn't do that. Don't touch the ID core, or I'm going to take your life. And, because he shows up beating the brakes off of one of the bodyguards. And then we find, okay, the bodyguards, we see their henshin pose. Like, they start doing the henshin, this and that, and it goes off screen because it zooms in on Buffa. And I was like, no, why? Why is this happening? I wanted more. I was like, it's been stolen from me. And so because we didn't get, I wanted to see the suits so bad. I wanted to see the full henshin, but Buffa literally, like, it just cuts to another thing, and they're dehenshined on the ground. Buffa beat them up. He, like, the cool thing about this is, like, he's like, Buffa's just a beast right now. And he grabs both their ID cores in his hand and just crushes them and drops them ground. And guess what? I can bring it back. We have two yeets. Two yeets to add to the counter, bringing it to 11 yeets. I haven't been able, like, my main thing, like, and I didn't say this in the other video, I was like, man, if Buffa's going to start destroying Kamen Riders, I'm bringing back the Geats yeet counter. I've been waiting my whole life, or at least, since like at least 20 episodes to bring it back. But the fact that we got two right there, a 2-for-1 special, up to 11, and you know, the fact that Nan didn't touch the ID core because she ran because she didn't know what was going on. Kyun approaches her, and we get a little more Kyun interaction with Nan, and this is after the fact where Baroba literally makes Nan touch the ID core, and she gets all her memories and just collapse. And Baroba's just like, I'm gonna have fun watching your misery. And I was like, okay, because like I said before, I'm at the point where I would like more backstory for like Kakura, Kyun maybe from like, but like Baroba right now, I don't know. I think I find her character annoying to an extent. Like she's not really pushing the narrative that forward in like I don't care, honestly. Um so, Kyun is talking to Nan and she's still trying to find herself, where she belongs. And he even says, the future might be a perfect place for someone like you because everything is designed there how you wanted and this and that. And I'm like, we plant some seeds because, you know, time daddy did want her to, marry someone in the future. So I was like, okay, we're gonna plant that seed and keep that seed there just to simmer because there's a few seeds that are planted here in this episode while pushing everything forward. And we got a look at a new rider. Groovy, it's a dog. And in some back alleyway, the shot, dude, the exposition in the shot of this, in the dark back alleyway, you know, Buffa just beasting on this Kamen Rider. And then once again, taking the ID core, crushing it. And I'm like, bro, another one? Okay. We're at 12 yeets now. 12 eats. Buffa is replenishing my yeet counter. All hail the king. Because he is. And my favorite thing, too, is Sharam is watching on the screen and it just has all the ID cores and there's like 20 of them and it just says lost, 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 lost. And he's like losing it. He's just like so defeated. And he even brought up like there was a previous DGP winner in that lot of riders. And I was like, well, that's really curious. I'm intrigued as to who it was because Ace has been winning for so long that I'm like, this has to be someone who won before Ace started playing. And Sham's now frantic to find riders to fight Buffa to the point where he goes and begs Jean and Kekra to help beat Buffa so he can return Ace and Kate. Well, he's like, let me return Ace. Like, and he's trying to appeal to them. And it may seem as something that's like a throwaway line, but I picked up on this. A little backstory to Jean because Kekra points out that Jean has changed because in the past, Jean would move on to a new rider that he would back if his current one got eliminated. And I was like, huh. So I was like, so Gene was like a fair weather fan. He was just hopping. He was rider hopping. Like, okay, this guy's good. Oh, eliminated. Now let me pick another one. Oh, that one got eliminated. Let me pick another one. Then all of a sudden, obviously, he fell in supporter love with Ace. Dude, the fighting. I like how much they are building up how powerful Buffa is right now. Because Michinaga shows up. He literally gives him the Vision Driver back. But he only gives it back because, Gene and Sherm are the last few riders left, and he wants to just beat them. And he wants to beat them both at the same time. And it was a nice henshin sequence. That appealed to me. I love a good henshin sequence. Delicious. And once again, they're building up more Sumeragi stuff because she interjects saying Kamen Riders aren't meant to fight each other. And she basically, tells her to shut up. And I was like, damn. I was like, all right, that's rude. But every time her facial expressions, her body language, what she's saying, like, they're like, I'm really curious, especially after the way this episode ends. I'm really curious to know more about Sumeragi now and the navigator and what that role really is and what is going on with her. But the fighting, I already brought it up. The fighting, 2v1, and Buffa's being unfazed completely. Like anytime, like there's a part where like Glare 2 uses little orbs thing to shoot all the lasers at Buffa, and Buffa just walks through them as they're exploding. There's another part where Gene literally gravity like attaches to Buffa's back. Point blank hits him with a freaking laser finish right to the back, unfazed. And my favorite part of the fight, because it just shows how like spineless and like just Shiromi, I just don't like him. He's actually begging like Buffa to like not destroy. He's like, oh, you know, what do you want? I can get you something. And Buffa finally goes on his tirade. He's like, no, he wants a world without the DGP. And he goes on this tirade about how people are selfish and, you know, using others for their happiness. And I'm like, this is less about Buffa wanting to destroy the Kamen Rider and more of him really just like wanting to remove this temptation of selfishness for people to trample and diminish other people's happiness for their own gain. Like I was like, okay, that's the depth to Michinaga that we needed. Instead of my friend was destroyed by Kamen Riders, I want to destroy them all. Like there's deeper meaning to it, and I appreciate that a lot actually. And I keep bringing up Sumeragi because this is this episode is two parts. Buffa and showcasing how powerful he is and just can he be stopped. And the second one is Sumeri and what is going on with her. Because this whole time, she's like, what can I do to help? She's been holding on to the Geats ID core the whole time. She's like, what would Ace do in this situation? She's like talking to her. She's like, and all of a sudden, right as Buffa's about to just destroy Glare 2, we get this red thing right in the middle, like energy wave that kind of pushes them back. Great visuals, by the way. And we see that Ace materializes in the middle of it. And what annoyed me the most is the OP kicks in, obviously, because Ace, our boy Ace is back. And we get the credits scrolling on the bottom, and I'm like, oof. And then, you know, he henshins. No finger snap either. He's here for business, and because it's the last two riders now. And it just ends. And weird dude who we don't know his name or what's going on, he is in the goddess of creation's chamber, and he says the curtain has drawn on the desire royale and says you finally awakened Sumeri. And I'm like, I got questions. What is going on? What do you mean she's awakened? What is this power? She's a navigator. Like, is there some thing going on with navigators where they have maybe a latent ability that awakens later on? Because we know that the goddess of creation was originally navigator, and then she was turned into the goddess of creation because she could grant wishes. Now Sumeri somehow thinking and, you know, holding on to Ace's ID Court was able to bring him back. We don't know where he was brought back from either. That's why I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on. So this was actually a really good episode. I really enjoyed watching Buffa just beat the shit out of people. I enjoyed pushing a narrative forward with Sumeri because I really think Sumeri is an interesting character, so this is pretty cool. And I'm curious about this Desire Royale, and I know people are going to comment, oh, well, if you've seen Ryuki or the Revice crossover film, it's like, I've seen Ryuki twice. I watched it years ago, and then I also watched the Blu-ray when I bought it. I just actually watched the film last night, but you gotta understand, I'm not comparing this to previous shows or this and that. I have to watch. I'm going based off of what's presented to us, so I'm curious to see what's gonna happen in this. I think this is the second wind in Geats that's like getting me back into it because there was such a lull period while I was still enjoying it, still a good show. I have to be adamant because people think when I say it was a lull period that's bad. It's not. It just wasn't doing it for me fully. Now I'm just like, all right, I'm in. Let's go. Let's get this show going. But that's it for episode 33 of Kamen Rider Geats. Let me know in the comments below what you think. And I'm looking forward to 34. I know it got accidentally uploaded. I don't see subs for you. I'm not watching it without subs because I don't get enjoyment out of that. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.